for experiential learning and public interest programs. So very much for that. So
thank you, Dean Meyer.
thank you.
So as the Dean said, my name is Onik Tombalakian. I'm the Vice Dean for Academic Affairs at Tulane. I have absolutely nothing to do today except to come talk to you all, but this is the fun part of the day. This is my colleague, Stacy Schnecksader, I think just stepped out, but she is our Associate Dean for Experiential Learning and Public Interest Programs. And what we like to do is provide a brief tour of the curriculum, just to give you a sense of what legal education is like at Tulane, and indeed in the 21st century. When I went to law school, I sat in classes, I took notes, I briefed cases, I took some exams, and I graduated not really knowing how to do what lawyers do. The assumption was you kind of learn it on the job. But these days, law schools can't get away with that. So part of our goal is not just to teach the doctrine, the substantive and procedural law that you read about, but also, the full package of professional and ethical skills and the sense of professional obligation that lawyers need to have coming out of law school. So we like to articulate those in terms of teaching students not just the knowledge of substantive and procedural law, but also effective legal analysis, research and writing, effective oral and written communication and advocacy, basic skills of the kind that you might encounter, whether in transactional practice, litigation, or something else, and then also a sense of the lawyer's professional duties. So the way we typically structure it, I talk for a few minutes about our general curriculum, a lot of the things that you might have already read in the materials, and then I'll ask Dean Sechnader to chat a bit about the experiential opportunities that are available at Tulane. And then we'll save some time at the end. It's usually more fun to hear what you're thinking about, what your interests are. So we'll save some time at the end for Q&A. In terms of the curriculum, it's a 3-year curriculum. The first year is very similar to what you would encounter at other schools. There's a mandatory curriculum that consists of the courses most likely to be tested on a bar, such as contracts, property, torts, civil procedure, property, and constitutional law. Where Tulane is slightly different is that we give students the opportunity either to pursue a civil law track if they know or strongly suspect they might practice in Louisiana after graduation, or the common law track, which is the track that everybody else would take if they're planning to take a bar outside of Louisiana. So in the first year, everybody takes the same courses in the fall, the same basic package of courses. In the spring, those who wish to pursue a civil law track will take 2 courses that are the civil law variants of the common law courses, and everybody else will just take the common law courses. In addition to that, we have a legal research and writing program in the first year. It's structured as 2 credits in the fall and 2 in the spring. And the goal is to help you develop your legal research and writing skills through a series of progressively more difficult exercises. Beginning with a memo where you're provided with a set of materials to analyze, moving on to a research memo, ultimately an appellate brief, and then an appellate argument. So again, in the first year, we have a series of mandatory doctrinal courses with an elective option, and then we also have this legal research and writing program. At the same time, there will be a personal and professional development non-credit course where our deans introduce you to aspects of legal practice that you'll need to become aware of. In the upper class years, we have an open curriculum in the sense that it's largely self-directed. We offer a variety of courses that are, bread and butter courses, things that most people take. I teach, business associations or business enterprises, evidence, legal profession, income tax. Those are the kinds of courses that most people, but not everybody takes. Legal profession, everyone has to take, but most of those other courses, not everyone has to take. But then we have a variety of electives, depending on the nature of practice you wish to pursue. So again, those who might go to big firms would probably want to take corporate courses, commercial litigation courses, the kinds of things that correspond to practice in those areas. Those who wish to go into public interest might want to take more policy-oriented courses, depending on the nature of their interests, civil rights, gender in the law, and so forth. All with a view to kind of crafting what you think you need for purposes of your careers or your expected careers. And of course, our faculty and counselors can help you think about what makes sense in terms of a package of courses as well as a sequence of courses. You probably know that we have several certificate programs that reflect our signature strengths. I mean, these are sort of essentially pre-programmed sequences of courses and extracurricular experiences that will signal to potential employers that you're interested in that specialty. So, for example, admiralty and maritime law, environmental and energy law, international and comparative law, civil law, sports law, and I'm missing one more, but you all probably know what it is better than I do at this point. So those programs consist of 15 credits, and of course there are associated journals that one can participate in, student societies, and all kinds of events on campus as well. So generally speaking, that's how the upper class curriculum is structured. Students also have a variety of co-curriculars that they can pursue. So, for example, Dean Sexton may talk a bit about moot court for those who are thinking about litigation as a career. A lot of students, for example, write onto one of our 7 student-edited journals, the Tulane Law Review, as well as a series of specialty journals like the Tulane Maritime Law Journal, the Journal of Law and Sexuality, the Journal of Energy and Environmental Law, and so forth. Those are an additional way that one can gain experience, not just with the practice of legal research and writing, but also to develop some subject matter expertise if they're interested in one of those career paths. I'll turn it over to Dean Sexton to talk a bit about experiential opportunities and some of our larger advocacy courses as well.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Stacy Scheck-Snyder. I'm actually an alum of this law school. So when I talk to you about our experiential programs, I'm actually doing so as an alum of some of those programs as well. And that kind of signals, not that I'm that old, but it signals that we've been doing experiential learning for quite a long time. We are not sort of new to this idea that we need to help students not only learn the law, but learn how to integrate law with what's happening in the real world, with ethics issues, professionalism issues, skills, applications. So for a long time now, we've recognized the importance of real-world engagement and hands-on learning and actually service to members of the community as members of a profession. We just celebrated the 40th anniversary of our clinical programs, and so those are some of our marquee programs. But we're also fortunate at Tulane to have doctrinal faculty members like Professor John Balajian, who have had practice experience, who are helping us build on the very solid foundation of experiential learning that we've been offering a long time, and help us develop it and make it even more sophisticated and even more kind of applicable to a wide array of practice areas. So we have a very strong foundation in litigation programs. What we recognize the need to build out those programs and offer more transactional skills opportunities for students entering sort of compliance fields and, I guess, business, various kinds of corporate deal-making, business settings. And so Professor John Balajian, even though he is, you would say, a traditional podium faculty member, he's helping us recruit adjuncts and practitioners to help us do more transactional kinds of skills training. And so I think that's what's really great about this law school is that we are collaborating, we are trying to build, we are trying to meet the needs of students, and not sort of become complacent and sort of rest on our laurels and say, oh, we've always done a great litigation program, let's just keep doing that, not considering how we need to change it and make it even better. So we offer, of course, skills opportunities that help students meet their requirement, which is, the ABA says, is 6 experiential credits. But we don't see that as sort of a maximum, like all you need to do is think about how you're going to get your 6 credits. What we're trying to do is help students use this curriculum to chart their career path, to figure out what it is that they enjoy doing. What do they see them, how do they see themselves as sort of lawyers? What kind of lawyers do they want to be? And so you might come in saying, I think I want to be a criminal lawyer. Great. We have a pro bono program. We're one of the first law schools, or we were the first law school to require pro bono work for graduation. We require 50 hours. This is a way for us to instill the value in students that we are members of a profession that have to help increase access to justice. That's what we do. And that's what our students do. But it also helps students figure out what kind of lawyers they want to be, right? So if you think you want to be a criminal lawyer, you use your pro bono hours, try to get some exposure to that. Hey, I really do like this. So maybe then I will look and see what other kinds of hands-on learning opportunities I can do to further explore that interest, right? So then in your second year, you might consider an externship. What's an externship? It's a field placement. It's a way for students to get out of the building, work in an outside setting, for a judge, for a nonprofit, for a government agency, even for a corporate counsel office. Getting out of the building, you can do that in your second year, and also your third year. And use that as an opportunity to further expose yourself to kind of areas of practice that you're interested in. You may do a little criminal work and decide, this isn't what I want to do. I thought I wanted to do it, but this isn't for me at all. I don't think I can handle this. This is not for me. Let me explore some other opportunities in the civil realm, right? And so that's kind of how you can use this experiential learning requirement to help you figure out what kind of lawyer you want to be, to chart your career path, and to build skills, right? And to build skills, and to serve clients and the community, right? So many different opportunities for doing that. So just trying to give you a flavor of what we're offering. I'm going to do my best to do that in 10 minutes. But there's a lot more that we could talk about. There's a lot more questions you might have. Don't hesitate to follow up with an email to me. I have a hard name to spell, but you can find me. Stacy S., Tulane Law, you will find me. Experiential Dean, you will find me. So follow up with questions. I have mentioned the clinics, but let me explain a little bit more about what those are. Clinics are opportunities for students to represent clients while they are still students, right? And so this is really a way for students to step into the role of a lawyer, right? Not just to help someone else practice, right? Well, that can be valuable. That can be a good learning experience. But clinics take it that one step further. You're not just helping someone represent a client. You are representing your client under intensive supervision. And so this is sort of this level of mentoring and level of oversight that is hard to get out in practice. So it's a great opportunity to get essentially almost a year of practice before you graduate. And increasingly employers are looking for students who come with some greater sophistication, greater exposure to the work, when they enter the workplace. We offer clinical programs in a range of areas: civil rights, criminal, domestic violence, juvenile, environmental. We offer sort of a public law center, public policy experience that's more devoted to legislative drafting skills, which is a whole area of practice that some students find really, really engaging and interesting. And we're about to create 2 new clinics. Some of you may have heard about this or be familiar with the fact that we were awarded funding to create a new First Amendment clinic. And so this will be starting up in the fall, and that will be probably mostly a federal practice clinic, but engaged in First Amendment advocacy. And we are also, based on a gift from an anonymous donor, going to create an immigration law clinic, which will allow us to do a range of immigration-related advocacy work starting in the fall. So there's a lot to talk about. One more thing, intellectual property, if any of you are interested in that. We offer a lab program where outside practitioners supervise students in helping to file trademark and patent applications on behalf of real clients. So that's another one of those specialty fields that we only recently began to offer, and I think many students are enjoying that opportunity and finding that to be a field of practice that it's really kind of a burgeoning area. It's a really hot area of practice that students want to get exposure to. So there's probably more to say, but maybe we should pause now and give you guys an opportunity to ask us questions about any of these topics.
It's more fun to hear from you.
Yeah.
What brings you here in terms of programs? How many people are thinking sports certificate? How many people are thinking the environmental, maritime, international and comparative? So it's interesting. Typically, about half our students take a certificate, and about half don't. So, I'm curious. What are some of the things that those of you who aren't thinking about one of our certificates looking at, or what generally motivates you to think of Tulane as an option? This is the moment in the class where the professors stare you down and wait for somebody to break and raise their hand.
I think just the fact, the fact that it has national name recognition, you could presumably bring a Tulane degree on the Southeast in particular, and the employer would consider your resume seriously. So I'd say that's probably the biggest enticement for me.
I mean, when I went to law school, I had no idea what area I wanted to practice in. I thought I wanted to be an IT. Well, actually, that's not true. I thought I wanted to be an IT lawyer because I had a computer science degree, and then I took an IT course and decided, I never want to touch IT again. So, I mean, there's something to be said about not necessarily feeling pressure to know what you want to do. I think if you want to be an environmental lawyer and you know that's your passion, there's plenty of ways that you can get involved. If you're somebody like I was in law school who thought they wanted to do something, but discovered about halfway through that that's not what they wanted to do, and basically fell into a practice area when I joined a firm. Part of law school and having an open curriculum is all about that. Taking a variety of courses, thinking about doing the boot camps, for example, as a way to test whether I really want to be a transactional lawyer, or whether I really want to be a litigator, or whether I really want to be a criminal defense lawyer, and then cutting off those career paths where you don't think you might be happy, and finding something that you're passionate about. So you try to structure the curriculum in a way that gives you that opportunity to think about where you might want to go, and then pursue the courses in a sequence, culminating in a clinic or an externship or a simulation opportunity that lets you try it out before you enter the real world.
Well, just to build on that, I mentioned externships, but another dimension to externships is that if you are interested in a particular practice area like environmental or sports or international, perhaps, these are opportunities to enter a particular workplace that specializes in those practice areas. Over the summer, students can earn externship credit anywhere in the world. And so, that becomes a more entrepreneurial sort of situation where students identify a placement that might give them some specialized expertise or exposure, and they can earn academic credit pursuing that opportunity. During the academic year, we also offer field placements in the sports context. We have students at the Saints Pelicans operation in the Corporate Counsel externship. We have externs at the Port of New Orleans. We have externships at the U.S. Attorney's Office. We have externships in judicial chambers. And so you can really use those opportunities to delve into one of the practice areas that you just raised your hand, where one raised their hand and said, I'd like to explore this more. Additionally, AASD mentioned the boot camps. That's another whole area of our experiential curriculum I didn't touch on. And those are the simulation classes. Those are classes that may be held in this building, but rather than being primarily dedicated to teaching you the law of something, they're dedicated to teaching you the skills related to various legal practice settings. So the boot camps break out into civil, criminal, transactional practice. We even have a first-year boot camp that probably DWG helped create, which is a business literacy program. And so these are one-week intensive programs in the winter intersession where students can come and earn a credit. And we have alumni practitioners coming from all over. They look forward to it all year. They tell us they really love it. They come in and they help teach it and really help give students an intensive skills experience. Students really get a lot from it. Even students that have had other kinds of experiential classes, they still really report that the boot camp has been very helpful to them in terms of building their confidence to stand up and practice in front of real live lawyers who can give them invaluable feedback. So that's another dimension to
the scariest part is you invite these people who practice law, and then they come and they actually make you write the memo as good as you would have to write it if you were at a firm, and you kind of walk in and say, okay, there's another event. You can keep doing this. But they take it seriously, and it is really, it's not just a series of lectures by practitioners. You actually do exercises that simulate what would it be like to put together a deal, or what it would be like to sell a deal to a prospective counterparty in the first-year boot camp. Other general thoughts? I mean, it's useful to hear again what interests you, because we could talk all day, but it's helpful for us to react to you. How many of you from Louisiana are thinking about civil law track? How many of you international? Any international folks? Probably. So, pretty diverse group. I assume the dean talked to you a bit about practicing in New Orleans or living in New Orleans. I suspect about 30% of our students come from Louisiana and 30% stay in Louisiana, but it's not the same 30%, which I always find very interesting. We have this civil law track that we offer in the first year, and slightly less than half of the students who take the civil law track don't wind up taking the Louisiana bar when they graduate. And then about a third of the students who do take the Louisiana bar didn't take the civil law track in their first year. Which I just find remarkable as a statistic, because it does really tell you that you can start at Tulane thinking you're going to be a Louisiana lawyer and then go work for a firm out of state, or come from out of state and just fall in love with New Orleans and decide to stay here and practice. But any other thoughts from the group? Well, in that case, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
There was somebody over there.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, excuse me. I am currently studying Spanish at my university, and I wanted to know if you guys offered courses in other languages for students to take.
Law courses in other languages. We don't currently offer any law courses in other languages. I have an adjunct who really wants to teach the history of the EU in French. I'm on the fence as to whether that's a good idea, just given that you need a critical mass of people to be able to teach a course. I don't. Do we have clinical or experiential opportunities where multilinguality is
Not well. In our immigration clinic, one of the aspects of that pedagogy is helping student lawyers work with interpreters, because that is a very specialized skill, and especially in the legal setting, it's very important to follow best practices in how an interpreter participates in an interview or in any aspect of legal practice. So that's as far as
Right.
we haven't gotten to a point where we're actually teaching in a different language, but we are recognizing that students are going to need to interact with people from a wide variety of backgrounds and are going to need to be able to provide the best representation possible in a way that can overcome whatever barrier exists.
Now that said, of course, we do have joint degree programs, like for example with the Stone Center for Latin American Studies, that is an opportunity. We've had adjuncts in the past who have floated this idea: should we create a Spanish language course? Because it would be very difficult to study Latin American law without a working knowledge of Spanish. The materials just don't exist in English, or they'd have to be translated for that purpose. So it's not something that we do currently, but I know that some of the prospective adjuncts are thinking about it, and there might be other opportunities on campus to be able to pursue that passion.
Our comparative law faculty read and write in other languages, so they would be good mentors in terms of how a student might develop, skills that are sort of in a kind of a multilingual context.
So I guess my question was along the same vein. What is the leeway for students taking other classes in other departments, for example? So what is the relationship the school has with those departments besides the business school?
Right.
What are the opportunities?
So at the extreme, you can get a joint degree. So we have we've got relationships with a variety of the professional schools for joint. Like I think we have an MHA with the School of Public Health. We have I think a social work. We have a joint JD MSW. The business school you mentioned with the Stone Center, we have a JD MA program. Beyond that, people from time to time do ask whether a joint program could be created on the fly, and those are really questions for the vice dean to negotiate with the associate dean at the other school as to what would be required to do a joint degree. But it's fairly rare that somebody wants to do something that tailored. So usually people who want to do a joint degree will want to do one of the pre-programmed joint degrees. Beyond that, students are allowed to take, I think, one course per semester in another school. We have a faculty rule. I don't remember it off the top of my head. But students are allowed to take, I think, at least one course. I think it might be one course a semester in other departments. And so that would be a question of the student figuring out which department the course is located in, and then just working out an arrangement with that school. And then we have, obviously, people from other professional schools taking courses at the law school. We don't generally let undergraduates into the law school courses, but we have business school students, we have students from other departments participate. So you probably noticed if you took a campus tour that most of the other professional schools, apart from medicine and public health, are pretty much on campus. And I think social work is also downtown. But most of the other graduate schools are on campus, the uptown campus, and the business school is on the uptown campus. So it's not that difficult to arrange to take a course across campus.
And following up, you just mentioned it, I didn't hear it quite clearly. You said that typically you don't let a graduate take any undergraduate coursework or vice versa.
We don't let undergraduate students into law school courses, and we don't let law students take undergraduate courses. It's just not the same level of rigor. But certainly law students have taken graduate courses in other departments, and graduate students from other departments have taken courses at the law school. So, yes?
I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
So, if, per se, a student goes in the first year, and they get interested in doing a dual degree program, when's the limit, or schedule-wise, just logistically, in their program, when is the limit to choose, oh, I want to do an MA in something, oh, I want to go to business school and apply it? How does that work?
Right. Well, don't quote me on it, but my sense is you have 2 years, essentially. You have to do at least 2 years of legal education plus a certain number of additional credits to get a joint degree. So I think some folks who do an MBA typically decide either at the end of their first year or at the end of their second year to do it. I think most people prefer to make that election after the first year because they alternate 1 year in the law school, say 1 year in the business school, and then they come back to the law school and then they do a year that's half and half. That way they can hit all of the law courses they might want to take. The real scheduling constraint is, are there courses that you want to take, and how would you structure the joint degree experience so that you can hit all the courses you want to take at the law school and the other school where you plan to get the joint degree. But practically speaking, you have to have made a decision in the spring of your second year if you're going to enroll in the other school and try to complete a joint degree. Because the degrees are conferred at the same time. That's like the point of the joint degree. Typically for our joint degree programs, we recognize a certain number of credits from the other school, and it varies from school to school. So it's probably easier to look at the student handbook and get a sense of how those different programs are configured. Yes?
Could you talk a little bit about study abroad opportunities?
Yes. Do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it? It's probably easier for me.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead. Yeah.
So we have a variety of exchange programs. Well, we have several study abroad programs. We have the summer study abroad. This year, obviously, because of everything that's going on, that's not really feasible. But generally speaking, we have 5 summer study abroad programs. Those are programs run by Tulane, hosted by, physically hosted by other schools in different areas, and we can talk about what those are. We also have an exchange program arrangement with, I think, about 20 schools. I can't remember the exact number, but it's about 20 schools. Latin America, Europe, Asia, and some of them are English only. Some of them offer English only programs. Some of them offer home country language only programs. Some offer mixed, but most of them will provide you with a full set of courses in English. Typically, folks do that in the fall of their 3rd year. The best thing to do is if there are particular countries that you're interested in or particular programs, you can look at the website and get a sense for what they are. But those are relationships where they send students to us and we send students to them. We get a lot more students from those schools than we send out, so we're always looking for students to send to other countries. I think in particular it would be nice to be able to send more students to those programs that don't offer just English language education, because I think you get a lot more out of it. But I would consult the list on the website if you're interested in a particular program. And that's for a full semester, but it would no more than 1 semester.
This might be off topic a little bit, but how are natural disasters handled at Tulane? Just out of curiosity, especially like with a lot of flooding happening here.
I mean, we have a lot of experience. Anything that can go wrong goes wrong in New Orleans, and one of the great things you learn at Tulane Law School is how to deal with periodic disasters. But I don't know. I mean, we both were here during Katrina.
I was so impressed. I went downstairs earlier this week to talk to the clinical manager, and about how we were going to manage the situation as it was unfolding. And she had already. She's like, well, I was here during Katrina, so she had already kind of gotten ahead of so much of what needs to be done, which included sort of how are we going to reach everyone? How do we have all the information we need? Do we have systems in place to address what may be coming? So I do think that experience with some of the administrators is valuable. Also, the university has its own kind of planning, emergency preparedness office, and they require every single unit on campus, including law, to plan for a host of different scenarios. And we just went through that process in the last year, and so now we're test driving it. But it's a necessity now for institutions like ours to have a process and a plan, and then to constantly refine it.
Yeah, I mean, we have a hurricane closure probably once every few years, and those operate pretty smoothly. Right? We know how to get back up and running, within a day. Just in terms of, once the all clear is given, we can make up classes and get the process back on its feet. Everybody knows that drill. The pandemic is a new one. It's an interesting one, but honestly, as we had a continuity of operations drill in the fall. This was one of the scenarios that we were asked to drill through. Imagine what would happen if you lost 33% of your staff and student body on campus, not to death, but just unavailability on campus. How do you operate? And so, I mean, these are things you think about, like how do you get equipment for people who need equipment? How do you, train people to do online? How do you get students up? We're obviously working through it in real time like everybody else is, but these are things we've thought about. We have experience and hopefully the confidence to see it through. So,
Thank you all.
Thank you. We need to turn it over to the next panel, but thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy your stay in New Orleans.